perfect happiness would be a canoe, a lake, a sky with some clouds but not too many, a following wind, and somebody else in the canoe who knows how to paddle.
I think I would come back as Hugh Hefner. He's the only man that I wanted to change places with. I wouldn't have traded places with Elvis. I wouldn't have traded places with Frank Sinatra or any of them big stars or any of them groups. Rolling Stones meant nothing to me, or the Beatles. I was enjoying doing what I'm doing, playing the kind of music that I play and going over. But there's one man that I thought he had more fun and more of my lifestyle than anybody ever, and that was Hugh Hefner. I'm still jealous of him.
My greatest fear is being out of work, and being out of work for some time, so that one is frightened that one's never going to work again.
I'm challenged most by getting to my desk all alone at 5 in the morning and starting to work.
Now I've been writing screenplays, and I think any writer who has the ability to create three-dimensional characters and set them in dramas that allow us to learn something and inspire us, move us to insight, those to me are the most amazing artists of all.
Oh, my favorite sound's got to be plugging in my guitar for the first time. I hear that chord come out, it makes my balls vibrate, I get very excited. My favorite food, I think, is bangers. British sausages. I love them, I don't know why, I just like the name. It's like American meatloaf, it's peasant food. I'm a peasant. I think profession I'd hate to be in is I'd hate to be a proctologist. I have no desire to look up people's asses. I don't think there's any purpose for it, and I've often wondered what would make a guy want to choose that as his profession.
I would have to say the most overrated virtue, in my opinion, is honesty. For example, I had someone come up and say, you know, I saw your show. I just don't think you're that funny. Who does that help?
The characteristic I most dislike in myself is my lack of concentration. Some have called me ADD. My sister thinks I have ADD. And by the way, you want to go riding on a bike?
The overrated virtue that just, I don't even want to call it a virtue, is the word entitlement. I can't stand people that think they're entitled to whatever they're entitled to. Nobody's entitled to anything that you don't work for.
5 years ago, I happened to have minor surgery, and it wasn't planned that I had to stay in the hospital for a couple of days, but I did. And I have never felt so peaceful and tranquil in my life. It was just like no responsibility. I could have stayed there another 3 or 4 days.
Great love and affection for Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, Bobby Darin, Lucille Ball, Danny Thomas, Jack Benny, Jackie Gleason, those people that were very instrumental in my life and career, who had no proprietary interest at all other than to make sure I survived.
I think my greatest achievement is kind of like probably happened in the first section of my life when I was 18 and joined the Cranberries, and our first single went top 10 or something in America. And just that whole 8-10 years was intense and very difficult. And at the end of it, I had a nervous breakdown and I just became extremely thin and extremely depressed. But the fact that I made it through, and then I can look back at it now and talk about it, and that I survived. It's fantastic, you know. I feel like I survived that, and I can survive a lot more.
My greatest fear is I'll go out on stage and they will boo me and hate me. And that's happened before, early in my career. My second greatest fear is that I will show up to work one day and all my magic equipment will be packed and sitting out on the sidewalk, and the hotel will say, you know what, we just came to the realization, you don't have any talent, you have to leave now.
I would like to not live anywhere. I've had 2 years to be a nomad, and I'm really liking that. I've had houses or apartments and nests and run home to them at the end of tours or whatever. And now when you don't have some place to go back to, it makes you a different person, and I like it.
When I think about it, my greatest fear is being locked up somewhere, being chained down, I'm claustrophobic. And that, along with the thought of not being able to move freely, the thought of not being able to think freely, freedom, the lack of freedom is my greatest fear.
There was a real sort of epiphany one day when I first started flying ultralight aircraft. I had this experience where by accident I wound up in this huge flock of ducks, and I flew along with them for maybe a mile or so, and I was in this river of birds. And I was transposed into timelessness because these birds have been flying across this planet the same way for millions of years, and I was there, one of them, doing that. And it was, and I was in their element totally. It was absolutely one of the greatest things that happened to me in my life, and that's why I had to come back and learn to fly with a flock of birds.
I think if I came back as a person, I would probably want to be some of the people I admire, like Bach or Mozart, except Mozart didn't live long enough. So, but if it was to be a thing, I think I would opt for being a bird. I think a statesman. I think that put me in politics, not as a politician, hopefully as a statesman.
My most treasured possession is my teddy bear that my parents gave me when I was 3. He's called Moses, and he's still in my house today. And I named my record company after him, so yeah, he'll be with me forever.
My motto is pursue excellence, ignore success. It simply means that hard work, driving, ambition are the last refuge of the failure.
It's a small step from the limo to the gutter. Watch where you're going.
And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, because if we can't get or achieve what we want to do today, we tend to despair. And I think that tomorrow the sun will rise, and we can conquer our demons, or the ones we couldn't defeat today. Tomorrow is another opportunity to do that. It's about perseverance, I guess.